When it comes to the parable of the Good Samaritan, many have a wrong interpretation of it. And I don't blame them, because pagan Christianity fooled everyone they were able to fool. The Good Samaritan comes down to this. Christ, who is the Good Shepherd, picks up broken, dying people, and he entrusts those people to believers who walk by faith. Not every believer. I'll say like this. The parable begins with a man who's on his way. So it's not someone who is lazy on his behind expecting a handout. He's active, he's on his way. On his way, he's robbed. And here's the thing, you're not getting robbed if you have nothing. If you're walking around looking dirty, being poor, robbers don't come to rob you. So the fact that robbers robbed him means that he had wealth. When he was lying, half dead, so he was dying. When he was lying there on the road, a priest came by. And the priest left him, dying there. Hold on a minute. Aren't the priests the stakeholders of the community? Why did the priest let him there? You should expect the priest of all to reach out to him. Priest reflected God's authority, right? So the priest should realize, hold on a minute, this is an Israelite, one of our own. He's lying there half dead, we need to help him. And here's the thing, this man was on his way from Jerusalem to Jericho. So he was known with the capital. What happened? The priest didn't want to be bothered with the matter. He just looked the other way. It will happen that you'll have people that pretend to be one thing, but their actions show the opposite. And it's when you are in need that their true colors are revealed. So the man was lying there. Then a Levite came by. Now Levites, similar to priests, because often amongst the Israelites the Levites were the priests, because the Levites were the priest tribe or the priest class. But they weren't just priests, they were also economically active. They were, how would I say it? They were the intelligence class of the Israelites. They were the ones doing the dirty jobs that nobody else wanted to do. That means when there was contention and someone had to be dealt with, or they had to gather information from others, the Levites did it. Similar to what, I don't want to say similar because the FBI, CIA, MI5 and those organizations are satanic, but it's similar to what they're doing. Spying on the population to make sure things don't get out of hand. Even though those satanic organizations of the day, they do more than that. But you get what I'm saying. So a Levite, who's also a stakeholder of the community, comes by and he sees the man half dead. Blood coming out of him, knowing that he's about to die, he keeps on walking. So hold on a minute. There are two types of stakeholders. One is a quote-unquote spiritual stakeholder, and the other is what we could say a worldly stakeholder. But they're both stakeholders of your people. They see you on the road. You're dying, not because of you. You were robbed. You didn't ask for it. You didn't look for it. You didn't bring it on yourself. It happened to you. You're the victim. What are they doing? They don't want to be bothered. And then a Samaritan comes by. Now the Samaritans were half Judeans. They were Judeans, but they were mixed with other ethnicities. So they were, you could say, Creole Judeans. And they were despised by the Judeans that lived in Judea. Yes, the region was called Judea on the Roman Empire. The Judeans, who considered them pure, who consider themselves pure Judeans, didn't want anything to do with Samaritans. And this stems back from the time of the prophet Nehemiah, when they were reconstructing Jerusalem's wall. The Samaritans were excluded from participating in the reconstruction of the wall. So, between the Samaritans and the Judeans, or between the Creole Judeans and the quote-unquote pure Judeans, quote-unquote I said, there was enmity. I dare to say it's kind of a form of racism that was going on. What happened? This Samaritan, who for some reason was between Jerusalem and Jericho, that's a surprise, because you wouldn't expect Samaritan to be there in a region where he's not wanted, where people don't want him. But he was there, and you saw this Judean, half dead on the road. Now, this guy who was considered the enemy of the people, this guy was considered trash by society, he was the one that helped a member of that same society that hated him. He picked up the guy, put it on his animal, and he went to an inn. When he arrived at the inn, he didn't just dump the guy over there. He told the innkeeper, this guy is wounded. Here you have some money, take care of him. I need to go now to do some business. When I return, I'll pay you the expenses of his care. So the Samaritan gave his word. I'll return to pay you all the extra costs. So hold on a minute. This guy, this good Samaritan, he stopped what he was doing because he valued the human life of that human being that was dying far more than the business he was involved in. And he was willing to lose money on behalf of this dying human being that needed help. Human lives mattered to him. He didn't care whether you were a Samaritan or whether you were a Roman or a Skete or whatever you were. He valued human life. And he realized that the innkeeper wasn't able to take care of all the needs of the wounded man. But he told the innkeeper, take care of him, here's some money, I'll return and I'll pay you the rest. Now, there's a lot you can say about this parable, but who is this good Samaritan? It's Christ himself. He is the good Samaritan. He is the one who's rejected by the world. And he is going around gathering people for his glory. And here's the thing. People often only realize Christ's value when the world lets them down. In that parable that Christ gave, that young man that was robbed by his own people who saw that he was robbed didn't want to deal with it, because if they acknowledged he was robbed, that he was dying, that means they would have to admit their natural obligation to help him out. And it would cost them some time and financial resources. They didn't want to lose neither of those two. And there's another thing about this parable that's a bit weird. Between Jerusalem and Jericho. Think about this. During that time, Judea was under Roman rule. And there was a band, or maybe not a band, but there was a portion of Roman troops located around Jerusalem. So, robbers knew they were in trouble when the Romans found out. And there were also wealthy Romans that lived over there, that came all the way from Italy or ancient Germany. Because the Roman Empire often used ancient Germans, well, to us they're Asian, but they also used Germanic people to export throughout the empire, because the Roman Empire was a white supremacist power. The majority of the inhabitants of the Roman Empire were dark-skinned and colored, But the Roman Empire was a white supremacist power because it worshipped Apollo. So let me get it straight. You have those wealthy Germanic people living amongst you, looking down on you, worshipping this Apollo figure, praising pedophiles and sodomite pimps, because many of those ancient philosophers of the Greeks, that's what they were. You have them amongst you. Your country is occupied. But instead of robbing those people, instead of making life hard on them, to make plain unto them, we don't take you here, get away, because there was anti-Roman sentiment amongst the people. But instead of taking actions against them, you take it out on your own. You rob one of your own who's well off instead of supporting one of your own. That often happens in the world. And it's often when you are in this wounded state, you'll realize that the world is not what it appears to be. So-called friends who had your back, suddenly they're nowhere to be found. Relatives tend to make excuses for not being around you. And it's often then that sinners realize, I need Christ. And Christ, not pointing the finger at them, who's merciful and gracious, picks them up, and he entrusts them to believers who are strong in their walk by faith. That's how it goes in Christ's kingdom. We look after each other. We don't turn a blind eye to the injustices around us. Neither do we permit our fellow brothers and sisters in Christ to go through hell while we are at ease. That doesn't happen. So, you, believer who walks by faith, you are that innkeeper. You have been anointed by Christ himself, which works out in abundance around you. So when new people come to the kingdom, the Most High will entrust them unto you. But he knows you're not able to restore them. That's not what he asks for you. He asks you to look after them. And he knows that those people have issues, sometimes deep-rooted issues, that they often malfunction, and that they will not always treat you properly. He knows all of that. But he requires from you to be patient, to endure, not to tolerate negativity, but to endure, because those are wounded sheep. They're not raging wolves, even though they may appear to be like that. When they're malfunctioning, they are wounded sheep. And Christ makes plain unto you, I'm going to provide for you every day when you have to deal with the people I sent to you. And not only that, when I return, there's going to be payment for you also. So Christ is not charging you with the care of your fellow brothers and sisters. He charges himself. He expects you to charge him also, and he pays. Okay? So no resentment should exist amongst believers for what we do for one another, because Christ is the one charged. He went to the cross. He died on Calvary in our place. And he is the one that rose again. And he is our head. Okay? Now, think about the Good Samaritan parable for a moment. Who are those that Christ sends? Wounded sheep. People that need deliverance. Those are the type of people he sends to you. Christ will not send reprobates to you. Christ will not send raging wolves to you. He sent you as sheep amongst wolves. Why? Because many of the wounded sheep are around the wolves. Because the wolves harms them. So that's why you're sent as sheep amongst wolves, because that's where the victims are. That's where those in need are. However, Christ will never send a wolf to you. Oh, let me say that again. Christ will never send a wolf to you. So you're not obliged under any circumstance to receive a wolf, to receive a predator. Christ does not send predators to you. Even though Christ also came for the predator, Christ deals with them differently. Yes, he does. Christ will never charge you with a predator. He will not. Look, you have folks that need deliverance. Those are the wounded sheep. Some of them are way out of line. They have addiction issues. They have self-mutilation issues. They may have suicidal issues. They do. You will not be able to put up with many of those people because, or else it may even take a toll on you. That's why Christ said, I'm your provider. And Christ will never send anyone your way that he's not willing to finance. Whenever Christ sends someone your way, expecting you to look after that individual, Christ already provided for the care you need to deliver. Do you ever encounter a hospital out there that's not paid by the Ministry of Health? Every country needs to have a Ministry of Health. Maybe they call it in a different way, but you get the idea. The medical world will always provide for its medical professionals and nurses. You will never find a hospital that's not looked after. In the same way, believers are looked after, both so that they can serve one another as well as to receive wounded sheep that Christ sends to us. Under no circumstances are we permitted to refuse wounded sheep, because we used to be wounded sheep. We used to be dying, and Christ didn't treat us that way. So you have people that need help. Those are the wounded sheep. But you also have people you need to be delivered from. So you have people that need deliverance. Those are the wounded sheep. And then you have people you need to be delivered from, because they're the ones that are dangerous. So you have people that are in danger. So you have people that are haunted by danger. They need deliverance. And then you have people who are the danger. So you need to be freed from them. The second type of people, the wolves in sheep's clothing, because they will often come in sheep's clothing, you are not obliged to receive them. Contrarily, you should not receive them at all. So never receive anyone Christ didn't send. Let me say it one more time, because this needs to get through to you. Never receive anyone Christ didn't send. Christ didn't send everyone you encounter. He didn't. Really, you need to hear this. Christ did not send everyone in your life. He will tolerate some folks in your life for a while, but he didn't send everyone into your life. He didn't. Look, I've been on YouTube ministering unto believers for almost 7 years. Well, now 6.5 years by now. And I used to minister before that also. Let me tell you one thing. All the tribulation and persecution I endured in my teens were meant to prepare me for this ministry I have now. During this ministry, I wasn't even aware it was a ministry until late 2016. Christ didn't even tell me, Rashid, you're going into a ministry for me, and you're going to receive a lot of people that have been wounded by pagan Christianity. There's going to be many adults with many deep-rooted emotional issues amongst them. You will have to teach them like they're kids, because they've been deceived completely by the world. Some of them are going to be difficult. Christ didn't tell me. He didn't inform me about all of it. He just expected me to trust him. And I did. So when I was in the ministry, I realized, oh dear, I've been ministering to many people, often people that are far older than me, who were never taught the right way. But Christ always provided. So I can tell you that as a believer, Christ will not always send people at their best to you. Neither does he have to do it, because he is the best. You have the best. So you shouldn't look for the best in people. Christ is the best. And it's Christ that you offer unto them. Okay? Some of them will walk away from you. That's not unto you. You have to shake the dust off your feet and move on. I can also tell you that the enemy had also sent people to me, and I wasn't even aware it was the enemy that sent them. Those were people who were quote unquote in need, but eventually they were covert narcissists. That's how I need to call them. They were covert predators that just fed themselves with my attention, and they even came to the comment section of this YouTube channel seeking sympathy from others in the name of the Lord. When those spirits revealed unto me what they were doing, I began to block them. And now I have a whole list of accounts I've blocked. Not all of the accounts I've blocked were such people. Some were just trolls, or some may have been believers, but they're not alert about what they comment in the comment section, so the enemy can use even them to cause distraction. So I blocked those also, because I'm very strict when it comes to the comment section. I don't want the enemy to use anyone to distract people from what I'm teaching. That's why I created the email, so that people can email me when they have urgent issues. And the email remains confidential. But I can tell you, the enemy sent people towards me. And in the beginning, I'm going to be frank here, I'm not going to pretend as if I knew it all in the beginning. I didn't really realize this difference between those that are endangered and those that are the danger. I didn't really see it, but over time I began to see it more clearly. And I want you to see this also. Never receive anyone Christ didn't send. How do you know when Christ sent someone? Look at the context. When did they appear? Are they participating in any solution? Are they willing to participate in a solution? Or are they stuck in a pattern and you're being drawn into their pattern? What's going on? Look at the bigger picture. Christ said, you shall know them by their fruit. When the enemy sends a wolf in sheep's clothing to you, it's to trap you in a pattern, because the enemy can only function in a pattern. So check the folks that are coming your way. Not all of them are sent by God. Neither does God expect you to put up with them. You don't. You don't. Well, that's it for this video. Keep agreeing with Christ and be at peace.